Okay, we're live.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the subcommittee meeting of the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee here in the Maryland General Assembly. It is Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. Thanks for being here and joining us. Quick note on norms. We are happy to have experts and advocates join us in the Zoom. We just ask that they keep their cameras and mics off until they're asked a direct question by a member. Thank you to my Chief of Staff, Leifka, for running the Zoom. And a big thanks to our committee counsel, Patrick Tracy, for being our ride or die. Okay, so let's get started. We have a short agenda this afternoon. Leifka's pulling that up. We'll look at two bills. First, Senate Bill 10, that is the State Highway Administration speed monitoring systems. That is a cross file of, it's a cross file of a bill that we've heard. I don't have that on my fingertips, but pretty sure this will be familiar to all of you. And then we'll discuss Senate Bill 68, which was not cross-filed. That's the bill we heard last week, the motorcycle safety awareness for the driver's skills exam, and that's from Senator Charles. So we'll look at these two bills. Thank you, Leifka. Now, let's start with Senate Bill 10. This is a bill that authorizes the state highway to use speed monitoring systems for a certain number of days and limits the number of applications that could be submitted. Okay, this has to do with SHA authorizing speed monitoring systems. Patrick, would you be so kind and walk us through this one?
Yeah, this is for speed monitoring systems in municipal corporations. When the county wants to put a speed monitoring system within the municipal corporation, there's an existing process that they go through the municipal corporation to get their approval and give them a chance. And then this adds a requirement that SHA must approve this on state highways, by the way, on state highways. This gives requires state highway to respond to an application by a county in this situation within 120 days, or to deny the application because it's incomplete. It also, as you mentioned, limits the amount of applications that a county can send in to 10 within a 30-day period.
So it's kind of a good governance bill, if I'm understanding, and this was not cross-filed, that's why we're hearing it, so.
This does not have a cross-file, correct?
Correct, thank you. All right, so what we're looking at here is a good governance bill, it's helping state highway to effectively, efficiently respond to speed monitoring system applications by municipalities. Was that right, Patrick? Municipal
By counties in a municipality.
counties and municipalities. Thank you.
On a state highway. Obviously, state highway has no interest in roads that aren't state highways.
Well, they may be interested, but they don't have any authorities, though.
True.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's thank you for that, Patrick. Let's open the floor to questions and discussion. Are there any questions, any discussion on this bill? I know my members are tired. Some of them have just come from other subcommittee meetings. But this is a good governance bill that will streamline, improve the efficiency for counties and municipalities to get their speed monitoring systems set up.
I'm going to move favorable on my senator's bill.
Smart delegate, and I heard a second. Thank you. So this Senate Bill 10 has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 And I didn't hear any discussion. Any opposed? I see Delegate Jacobs' hand is raised. Any other opposed? Okay, thank you. The bill passes non-unanimous. Senate Bill 10 passes non-unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to Senate Bill 68. Again, this is a bill about motorcycle safety. And I know all of you remember the very moving testimony that we heard from the family of the young man, Torch, Mr. Torch, who lost his life on our roads. And we all remember the how we felt hearing that family's story. So we want to keep everybody who uses our roads safe. This bill seeks to require MVA to include a question on the driver's test about motorcycle safety. And we did, as I recall, we did talk about this bill in a previous subcommittee meeting. And we're back here to look at this again because we sort of began tossing around the idea of an amendment to this bill that would expand the safety education to include not only motorcycle safety, motorcycle awareness, but also other vulnerable road user safety. And in the days since we first discussed this bill, we've reached out to the Motor Vehicle Administration. And as I recall, I had two questions. First, could we require MVA to include a question about other vulnerable road users on the driver exam, in addition to the motorcycle question? And if so, how could we go about doing that? There's a limited number of questions, I believe, that MVA pulls from on these tests. So I think you guys remember that, and we do have MVA here. But first, Delegate Healy.
I just want to let you know that Delegate Naraki said he's trying to get into the meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. We were missing one. Okay, I know that Leafco will take care of that. Ms. Nisley, would you come online and talk with us about the driver exam and vulnerable road user questions? Thank you.
Yeah, so if I could share just a little bit of information about how the test is made, because I think that'll help inform the answers to these questions. But the short answer is there are already a lot of vulnerable use questions in the pool, and there are many that end up popping up on the test because of those numbers. But to take a step back, so currently nothing is in statute about our exam in terms of the content. What we do is follow all of the national standards and best practices for knowledge and safety. We have a 25 question test. You need to get an 88%, which is 22 correct, in order to pass and receive either your permit or your driver's license ultimately. Those questions are drawn randomly from a pool of 136 questions. There are categories for those. There are 19 different content or domain that we choose from. Those are content categories such as aggressive driving, alcohol, conditions, defensive driving, etc. And that includes sharing the road with pedestrians, sharing it with other vehicles, all kinds of things that we categorize these questions by. Now, we went through today and did a count of which of those questions we thought were related to vulnerable road users. And we found that there were at least 29, although I think you could categorize even more as being important to how we are driving around vulnerable users. 3 of them were definitely related to motorcycles. And this is before we get to what we've already agreed to do with the sponsor for this. So there's 19 different domains. There are 8 domains where we found VRU questions. Now, what happens is every one of those domains gets a question. That would only get us to 19. So there are a couple where you get 2 or 3 or 4 questions to total the 25 questions. So given that there are about 35, we'll say for a round number, vulnerable user questions, you are bound to get at least one, if not much more, on your test already. So with that in mind, what we agreed to with the Senate sponsor offline, regardless of if the bill is to pass or not, is we thought this is an important issue and it's something we work on year round and throughout the life of the driver with awareness and collaboration with ABATE and other groups because we want to promote safety throughout the lifetime of the driver. But we said, yes, we'll go ahead and add some more questions to the pool. So we'll bring it up to at least 5, and we will guarantee that one of them gets onto the test. So we'll be tweaking our domains a little bit. That's something we totally have the ability to do now and plan to do. The only other thing I think is worth mentioning is that part of the reason we like this flexibility is because we are able to respond to concerns like this. The senator brought up a good concern, but there are a lot of things we're balancing. So you pass laws every year that we are adapting our tests to, including work safety, these different things about crosswalks, and we're always kind of examining the tests, looking at the questions, making sure they're most appropriate and capturing the best that we can. But again, the student has to be prepared to answer any of these questions and get an 88%. So you can't go in with no knowledge of a certain domain because it will cause bigger problems for you, right? So I'll leave it at that. I think that was a lot of information at once, but that's where we're coming from. We like the flexibility. We're happy to consider the motorcycle thing and get that incorporated now. But I think, flexibility is also important.
Thank you. And I see you, Delegate Ziegler, but if I may just get one thing clear with Ms. Nisley, and then we'll come to you. Ms. Nisley, you said what had been agreed with the sponsor was to add 5 more questions to that pool of 136 questions you already have.
I think we said a total of 5 motorcycle questions, but
right, add 5 motorcycle questions to the pool of 136.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then
we will be adding additional to the pool.
Right. So that there would be 141 questions, 5 additional motorcycle questions, but there are already a few motorcycle questions already in there, but you agreed to add 5 more motorcycle questions. So now you have a total of 141 questions that may be drawn from in the driver exam that has 25 questions. So only a fraction of the total number of questions available will be pulled into the 25 question exam. Is that right? And then in addition, you guarantee to pull at least 1 motorcycle question into that 25 question exam. Is that correct?
Right. So we have a chart that has each of these domains. So we'll have to be creating a category that is motorcycle questions and guaranteeing that 1 comes from that category. Currently, that might mean we put 1 less one about driving signs, right? Because that's the one that has the most. We get there are however many sign questions in the pool. We draw 4 for each test. I don't know exactly how that work out, but yes, we will do that.
And those questions are pulled from the pool in a random fashion, so long as they hit each category, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there are, you said 19 categories, is that right?
Yes.
19
Yes,
categories.
and we believe 8 of the domains can contain a VRU
Thank you.
question.
All right, thank you so much. Delegate Ziegler, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering to myself, what if you added a sentence to all of the motorcycle questions that let people know how many people are killed on motorcycles, some information like that to highlight the importance of safe driving, so that no matter what popped up, people would have sort of a heightened awareness of the issue. That's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to suggest is, and I don't know if there's a way to do this, but I do feel like this maybe could or should be part of the physical driving test, along with pedestrians. I feel like pedestrians don't really understand what cars can and cannot see and how quickly they can and cannot react. And I think motorcycle riders sometimes suffer from the same problem. And, they think it's okay to weave in and out. They feel more obvious perhaps than they are. And I'm just wondering if there would be even like a spoken way to deal with that in the physical driving test to help people notice where the blind spots are in your car and, you know, how these accidents can take place.
Thank you, Delegate. Ms. Nisley?
Yes, I would certainly be willing to take this to our staff and talk a little more about it. I would just caveat it with the fact that one, the people that are applying for a driver's license have gone through driver's education, which encompasses everything we're talking about. They've gone through 60 hours on the road. Some of that, I believe it's 6 hours, has been with a driving instructor who should be pointing those things out as they go. And I think when it comes to the testing itself, we are following the national standards that AMBA has put out and asked us to follow. But that doesn't mean we can't improve, and I'm sure we'd be open to that conversation in terms of just creating policy and making sure we're doing our best.
Thank you. We'll keep talking. Delegate Odom?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's just one question, and then one sort of observation. It's been a moment since I've taken the driver's test. Okay, other than when I took when I started riding a motorcycle later on in life, I took another course, and it was substantially different than any training I'd gotten for driving a motor vehicle. So I just wanted to point that out, or driving a car. I learned a lot of safety skills in the motorcycle training that actually benefited me as driving a motor vehicle. And so I just wanted to point that out. I don't know what lesson plan applies to either one of those, but I know they're different. But of course, it's been a long time since I've taken the car examination. And then one other thing that I want to point out may be irrelevant, but Ms. Nicely was talking about the actual practical portion of examinations. And this, like I say, this may be irrelevant, you know, but the driver's skill, this bill is driver skills examination. You know, to me, when I see skills, it tends to make me think that we're talking about some physical or use of driving. But this is only speaking to questions and answers on an exam, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. I wanted to see if Ms. Nicey sees anything there in terms of the differentiation with the training or the lesson plans that go along with motorcycle testing, as opposed to, you know, motor vehicle testing, because I think it's sort of combined to what we're trying to do here.
Thank you, Delegate. Ms. Nisley, can you help?
Yeah, so we did I looked into this a little more last week.
Uh-oh, am I frozen or is Ms. Nisley frozen?
I think she just dropped off.
I think she froze.
See,
We're all not frozen.
The motor.
oh, Ms. Nisley, we lost you. We didn't hear anything you said.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Would
Okay,
you?
I'm sorry. I seem to
so
have a bad
kind?
connection. If I fall off, I'll get on my phone again. Basically, I was saying I did look into this a little bit after last week's meeting, and you know, I learned that, you know, the schools that are teaching motorcycle knowledge and safety and driving are, you know, same as the other schools where we prepare the information and then it's put on by the private company, or they may add to it and we approve it. And then ultimately there's both the skills test and a written test. And I do think it is, like Delegate Odom said, it's all interconnected because we're trying to create this, you know, culture of responsible driving. And that also speaks to what we're doing, you know, with safety awareness throughout the year with all the different resources that we have, you know, over the life of a driver.
So thank you. Just to make sure I understand, are there two different test packages for motorcycles and cars?
Yes, I have not looked as deeply into the motorcycle safety test and knowledge test as I have this in preparation for today, but there is a whole different, you know, class they have to take and knowledge test they have to be prepared for.
Right. And I think what this bill focuses on is, you know, education for people driving motor vehicles. And I think, I'm guessing at the sponsor's intent, but I think he was surely considering the fact that cars, SUVs, trucks, the motor vehicles are larger and can cause more harm and injury and death than motorcycles. So I think the attention is rightly put on motor vehicles because they can do so much harm and they kill a lot more people than motorcycles. It's my general understanding. So I think Delegate Odom, your question about motorcycle training, it's a great question. And maybe, and it also goes, I think, in part to Delegate Ziegler's question about education for motorcyclists, education for pedestrians. That might be another bill we could look at with MVA next year. Okay, just getting that clear, hopefully. Delegate Odom?
Yeah, I was going to say you're right on the mark, Chair, as well as Delegate Ziegler's question and Ms. Nicely's response. And I can give you one example in the difference that I noticed. And again, taking into account, I haven't taken the driver's education training or test in quite some time. But in the motorcycle training, you are taught where there are inherent dangers to look out for other vehicles, of course. And they teach you that, various places in the intersection, obviously, but they point those things out and give you advice in terms of avoiding those sort of catastrophes. And now in my thinking, I don't believe, and again, I haven't taken the course in a while, but I don't believe that necessarily the individuals driving vehicles or cars are necessarily taught the opposite. In other words, where you can have a motorcycle, most likely in a perilous situation, or any other vehicles other than another car or a motor vehicle, like a truck. So that's just one example that I was talking about. And I'll shut up now.
That's very helpful. You might be the only one in this Zoom room who, I'm not sure, might be the only one who took a motorcycle test and drives a motorcycle.
I'm sure it's a biker hitting here. So
Well,
I got a Harley Road King.
There we go.
I knew. All right now.
Delegate Jacobs representing. Thank you. Okay. So I want to go, any other discussion or questions? Because I'd like to go, if not, I'd like to go back to the overview that Ms. Nisley provided. So Ms. Nisley, you confirmed that MVA's driver written test already includes questions about vulnerable road users. In fact, you said that the pool of 136 questions already includes 29 vulnerable road user questions. They're already in the pot that is drawn from, correct? And
That's correct.
and we're assuming that it includes pedestrians, cyclists, people with disabilities who may be walking, people with disabilities who may be using a cane if they're visually impaired. All of that's included in those 29 VRU questions.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so I think it's important as legislators to be very sensitive about how prescriptive we are. We're really lucky to have experts who spend their lives learning about and practicing, safety, engineering, design, and we should, I think, have a sense of humility about how legislatively prescriptive we are. I don't think any of us is qualified to write questions for a driver exam or a motorcycle exam or anything else, as excited as we might be. So I do want to put that forward just as a baseline, understanding we're not here to legislate how our transportation experts design questions. They're following national best practices and all that. And since I believe, in my view, you've reassured us that vulnerable road users are already recognized in the existing driver's test, Ms. Nisley. So it may not be necessary to require MVA to add more VRU questions. And I think that's something I'd like to just make sure the subcommittee members feel comfortable with, because we have the opportunity to ask MVA to add more VRU questions, or we can ask them, but they already have 29. So how do we feel as a subcommittee about that issue? Any strong feelings? Oh, Delegate Morgan, go ahead.
I think that the motor vehicle department has done a great job of addressing all of our concerns, adding the right number of questions, and we're in great shape for this bill to move forward.
Thank you, Delegate Morgan. So that sounds like a motion. Can I take
I'll make
that
a
as a
motion.
motion?
Sure.
I'll second.
Second, wonderful. Thank you. So the bill has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any discussion? Any opposed? Raise your hand or speak up so I can see. I see no opposition. Very good. Delegate Morgan, are you in a disco?
I don't know what's going on behind me. Yeah, I was part of.
Are you safe? As long as you're
I'm gonna have
safe.
some song and dance like Pippi did yesterday.
As long as you're safe.
I'm
All
good.
right.
No, there's something. I don't know what's going on the screen.
All right. Well, in any case,
Thank you,
Senate Bill
Mary.
68 's been
Okay.
moved, seconded. All those in favor already said aye, unanimous. So Senate Bill 68 passes as it came before us unanimously. Wonderful. Patrick, are there
Madam-
any other, sorry, questions?
I do.
Yes. Delegate.
It's actually not a question, but it was just something that I remember from, we had a bill in on motorcycles some years ago. And I think Delegate Naraki's district mate is a motorcycle aficionado. And I hope that she will appreciate what we're doing for motorcyclists.
Thank you, Delegate Healy. I'll put that in my floor notes. All right.
She definitely is, Delegate.
Well, with that ends we've completed our agenda. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Moved. Second.
Great. You guys have been great. We are adjourned. See you on
Okay.
the floor.
no, we got to vote in
Vote.
committee.
Oh, yeah.
3:30.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to do what?
We had to
We're
vote
voting
in
it-
committee at 3:30.
Committee
All
voting session, Madam
right.
Chair.
See you in committee. Take care. Thank you, Delegate. Bye-bye.